So we'll take a look at my interpersonal communications project from Liberty University, Human Services 508. My name is Stanley Cobbs. I am 50 years of age. I am a believer of God and a Christian, and I'm raising these three amazing children. The two boys are twins, and this is their oldest sister, and I'm also a recent graduate of Liberty University, and I hold a bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in Christian counseling. I'm also a veteran of the United States of America, and I work as a case manager in an infectious disease clinic. Now we're going to talk about the types of communication. Now, according to Stewart, communication is the label, the continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making, which is, as you say, verbal and nonverbal. And what is the interpersonal communication? Now, according to Stewart, this defines interpersonal communication as communication that is shared with people when they are actively talking and listening in a way that maximizes the presence of the personal. The interpersonal communication consists of verbal, nonverbal, listening, questioning, manners or mannerisms, problem solving, social awareness, self-management, accountability, and even assertiveness. Now, verbal and nonverbal both play an intricate part in the roles of how we effectively communicate with each other. Body language and facial expression are both extremely important here. One thing with nonverbal is a lot of times our visual acuity, such as our facial expressions, they say a lot when we are talking to someone, because a lot of times our emotions are involved in those. Now, for the nonverbal, the two types, the first type we're going to look at is nonverbal. Now, it may not be as effective as verbal, but it is needed. Again, we were talking about the nonverbal as facial expressions. They are instrumental in communicating. It is reflective of how your body language and your emotions are centered and how they are disseminated within the conversation. Again, a lot of times, if somebody's talking with you, you do not want to get to the place where they're talking, you just seem disinterested in the conversation, because that can cause a break in the communication process. The next thing we're going to talk about is verbal, and we all know that verbal means vocal. The verbal component is essential in expressing our thoughts, concerns, ideas, and general thought processes, which are also reflective and joined in with our inner emotions. And we can often tell when we're having a conversation, if someone starts to get angry, you can hear it because of their emotions that are entangled with it. If they are happy, you can also tell that too, because of their emotional processes. Now, my overarching personal goal is to enhance my ability to relay my inner thought processes verbally when the time has presented itself for me to share. Now, I'm pretty good at listening, yet it is hard for me to share information that I have, because there are times that I do not believe that my information is beneficial to the conversation. Now, on my job, I have to make a lot of phone calls, and this can be a problem for me, because when you don't believe that your conversation is viable or valid or beneficial to the conversation piece, a lot of times when I'm talking on the phone, I'm just automatically assuming that the people are disinterested, or they're not even paying attention, or maybe they have me on speakerphone and they're doing three other things and they're just saying yes or no as I ask them a question. So that could pose a problem. And that's one of my goals, is to make sure that I am understanding that my words have value. I am good at inhaling, which is listening, but I have to master the art of exhaling, which is verbally speaking. I need to realize again that my words have value, and as Stewart states, the quality of your existence is directly correlated to the effectiveness and the quality of your communication. So now we're going to talk about some positive and negative influences that are in my life. Some of the positives are, I come from a large and loving family. I love my godchildren, which are instrumental. I'm a leader because I can follow. One thing I've learned through the years is anyone can be a leader, but the best leaders are those who can also follow direction. I'm patient, I'm educated, and I'm a giver of my time, my money, and of my heart. Now, some of the negatives, I tend to self-doubt sometimes because of a past molestation issue. Sometimes I'm quiet when I know I should be vocal. I can be very defensive at times. I'm stubborn. I can be non-trusting. And sometimes I don't truly know if I know what the plan of my life is with God. Now, we're going to talk about the behavioral blend. Carbonell is the creator of the DISC personality pattern. Now, there are 4 DISC personality types. You have dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. Now, my unique assessment to my behavioral blend is steadiness was 31%, dominance was 29%, compliance was 22%, and influence was 20%. Now, my belief of what I thought my disc would be, I was kind of shocked at this because my test results of what it is wasn't what I thought. But what I believed my blend would have reflected is that I was CIS. Now, because I believe that because I'm peaceful and adaptable, I'm not aggressive, I'm tactful, I love meeting people, I'm very optimistic, I establish relationships rather quickly, and I'm not moved by recognition when I've accomplished something. I don't require the pat on the back. I think the reward of what I've done is on self-gratification. And I also thought that this test would show that I am very much introverted. Now, my behavior blend was S, which is stability, then dominance, then compliance, and then influential. So it went from S, D, C, I, and I thought it would have been more the other way around. Now, my behavior blend, my unique sequence and personality type was S. Now, that indicates that I am a clear thinker, I'm an analytical thinker, I always have to have a plan of action. I would agree with that. That's pretty much me all day long. I have empathy, but more logical. Now, this particular personality type speaks on being logical, but for me, I think I'm more empathetic than logical. I like to be challenged, that's true. I like to motivate others, and I would believe that is true. So this is me, SDC. I can agree with some of this, but I'm still not able to see some other areas. But when I asked my family, my sister, she pretty much said that this seems to be accurate. Now, communication barriers. Now, when you come from a large family like I have, it's hard to make sure that your voice is heard. But not only did my parents raise their 10 children, but they also raised about 6 displaced children in the community as well. So basically in my household, it was talking going on all the time, so you had to fight for your position to be heard. I just didn't see the need. I think I operated more so off of the nonverbal of communicating through actions, whether it was good or bad or positive or negative, but I was more of a visual, nonverbal type communicator. Now, one of the huge barriers for me is the fact that I cannot phantom being at a training or a conference with a monotone speaker. Now, a dry speaker to me loses my attention very quickly. Now, being a praise dancer and a certified trainer, I sometimes train or praise dance in front of large groups, and I've actually did a praise dance for about 350 to 400 people, and I've actually certified people probably at about 400 people at a time. Now, this is contrary to what my DISC personality results were. I think I'm more comfortable with speaking in front of large groups, basically 400, versus speaking in small groups. Within the large group sector, I can hide away because I can't see everybody that's looking at me. But when you're dealing with maybe 20 people or less, you tend to be able to see them all, and that can cause me a level of uncomfortability. Again, contrary to my DISC results, I believe that my information has value. I just need the assurance that I can share this with my clients, according to Burley Allen. Now, we're going to talk about my listening style. I'm not a biased listener. I don't formulate conversations with my opinions about someone else's lives. I hear their facts of what is being shared, and that is the reality of the conversation. Now, with my clients, I tend to hear what they're saying to me, and I understand that it is not about me, it's about them. You have to be attentive. An active listener is one who does not interrupt or is not present just to be present, or as Burley Allen calls it, the faker. I'm a biased listener, unbiased listening causes problems in the conversation because at the point, your opinions can override what is being stated from their facts. I perceive while I receive, but I don't tend to talk and think for a minute that what I'm receiving is obscure and wrong in any way. As for the receiver of the information, we have to remember that we are hearing someone else's life and we are learning how they cope, live, and communicate, whether it's effective or ineffective. It's not for us to judge, but it's just for us to make sure that we are actively engaged in the conversation with them at that particular time. Now, we're going to look at distracted listening, and I think this is an area that most people find some issues with. When we are distracted from our listening, or the conversation is broken, that can come from a lot of things, but one of the things is we can have an opinionated one-way conversation, which are a distraction for me and probably for a lot of others. When someone interrupts you with an answer before you've even finished giving the problem, this can cause some people to shut down, and I know I'm one of those people who shuts down at that place. If you can answer my problem before I even state it, then I know right then and there, it's not that you're giving me what I need, you're telling me what you think. So the two types we're going to talk about, the first one is an internal barrier. I'm more active in the morning, which is the time when I'm most alert. Now for me, usually around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I'm kind of winding down, but not all the way to that point of just being fatigued. But from 10 o'clock and on, I'm not really in the mood to do anything. I'm not a great listener at that point because I'm just not focused on that. External noise can also be a distraction for a lot of people. You know, fidgeting, tapping the table with pencils, looking at your watch, picking up your cell phone, looking at books while somebody else is talking. That can be a motivator to let you know that they're really not paying attention. So I don't tend to do this a lot, but I can say I have been guilty of this in the past, and this is according to Burley Allen. But when you do these things, just know that you're not on trial. There's not a judge or jury present, but you have to make sure that you work on this. And I know I need to work on this to make sure that this allows me to have optimal listening skills. So you must come to a plan of action, and my plan of action is to realize and know that I do make mistakes, and that I can change the mistakes if I put into practice the skills that I have learned from this course. I will be more vocal and understand that one-sided conversations without me sharing still lends a hand to no substance in the conversation or lack of guidance. When listening, I will be less formal in my approach, which can seem to be stoic to some people when I'm engaged. When I'm talking to people, I kind of, especially if they're sharing intimate things with me, I kind of sit sometimes quietly and maybe nod or shake my head or just jest as in I'm listening. It's like that old cliche say, your body's here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town. Even though I'm genuinely interested in what they are having to say, my persona sometimes reflects the opposite. So I need to know that my words, again, have value, and that once I know that I can be more confident in sharing my knowledge and skill set. I need to utilize the same skills that I have in large group settings, which I am comfortable in with my community college class, which is about 20 or below, where I'm sometimes uncomfortable. And so you have to be willing to share your thoughts or my thoughts, and understand that not every person I talk to is ineffective as a listener. And if I trust them, then I need to be able to communicate with them, according to Peterson. So two of my favorite scriptures are, the first one is, seek ye the Lord while he may be found, call ye upon him while he's near. So with that from Isaiah, it's basically saying that, no matter what we go through, whoever we're talking to, whether it's a small group, which is, 1 or 2 people, or a large group, 100 people to 400 people, that God is always there with you. And the second thing is to realize that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, according to the book of Psalm, for such a time as this. So in conclusion, effective communication will only take place when you know and believe that there is room for improvement. This doesn't mean that you are not effective in your approach of active listening, but what it does mean is that when you are counseling or having a conversation with somebody, that you will utilize every tool of support that you have to be effective. Our very best is received when it is done without hopes for our own interpersonal satisfaction of rewards. Now, when we allow God to assist us as we grow, He will lead and guide us in a direction that is sure to be most beneficial for us to serve in our community, our home, and God will be pleased. So I would like to say thank you for listening, and I hope that something that I have said will be beneficial to you as it has been to me. So be blessed. And the next slide will show the references of some of the material that I used to complete this presentation.